What's going on, everybody? Wanted to make this video kind of showcase what weapons I have managed to hang on to that have stayed in my inventory or that I'm still using from playing the game from start all the way up to max power level I'm at now, 305. So what weapons have I bothered to actually bring up to level 305, or if I have any weapons that I don't have at 305 yet, but I would like to bring up to level 305. And what I use in the raid, what I use when it's time to do a nightfall strike, like a prestige strike or something, you know. What I would recommend to people. And this is I guess not with weapons. It's not that important whether you're a warlock, a titan, or a hunter. But just to point out, I am a warlock on all three characters, so keep that in mind. And show off my armor as well, I suppose. I'm gonna wait till I get into the tower because there's a problem loading things, as you can see, when you're transitioning between areas. That was a Destiny 1 issue as well. At least it doesn't kick you out of that menu every time. It's going to be interesting to see what exotics I've decided to keep and use, and which ones sit in my vault pretty much all the time. What exotic armor as well I've decided is useful enough to hang on to and bring up to 305. Alright. First of all, we'll go over what's actually on my character right now before we venture into the vault. Let's do armor first. I feel like that might be the lesser exciting of the two things, but we'll go over that first. This set that I'm wearing right now, this is the Lost Pacific set. This is the set you get from Titan. It looks like a spacesuit that's been converted into warlock armor. And I've got that all ranked up to 305. I think it's a pretty neat looking suit. And I've got the, what is it, the Midnight Talons shader on this one. And we have Exodus Down, which is that is the suit of armor from Nessus, Exodus Down. I didn't point out when the Lost Pacific set, I've got it set up for Void, so I've got all Void mods on it. Exodus Down I've got set up for Solar. And I've got all resilience and recovery wherever possible, no mobility on all my armor. Mobility doesn't really affect my playstyle at all, and it's really not that effective of a perk in the game to begin with, in my opinion. I've got Suros Modular Shine is the shader I went with on the full set of armor here. What's next? I do not have the full set of the Gensum Knight armor yet. The Gensum Knight armor is excuse me, is the IO set of armor that you get from Asher Mir. And I'm not sure about this shader yet, if I want to stick with the shader. I guess we'll just throw those on for now. These exotics. To me, this kind of looks, this helmet almost looks like Vex. And this chest plate here. I really like the shader, except for what it does with this blue sash here. I'm not really sure that I like the way that looks. But I've got this one set up for recovery too. You can see it almost hit max recovery. Maybe if I had the gauntlets that actually went with it too. And the shader is called Tarnished Copper, if you're curious about that. Now all these are at 305. All this armor I'm showing off. Alright, this is the raid helmet. These are the raid gauntlets. Let me just reorganize a little bit here because I'm very particular about the way I like my stuff organized here. I don't have the raid chest yet, so what I had done is I took my Wildwood chest, which is the set you get from Devrim K on Earth, and I gave that the raid shader so it'll match. There. And then I was wearing the exotic Lunafaction boots. And there's the raid Warlock bond. So when I raid, that's how I go in. It's got raid helmet, raid gauntlets, raid class item, exotic boots, and the chest piece from Earth with the raid shader. Now, what I really like about these boots, I'm liking them more and more the more I play with them. They kind of do what these boots with the transversive steps did for me in Destiny 1. Because the perks have changed on the transversive steps now. They're all about mobility. Movement speed is increased and energy weapons are automatically reloaded when sprinting, I believe it is. I don't know, I really haven't used these yet. I have them on my Omni, but I really haven't used them. So don't take just the fact that I have them on me as them being worth using. These are really the only exotic boots I've been using. I think, well, only have the two, but these are the ones. Lunafaction boots. If you don't know, the Lunafaction boots, when you drop your rift, like let's say I empty, or I'm just about to empty my Cold Heart on Callus. I hurry up and drop a rift, instantly reloads my Cold Heart. Go right back to shooting. I don't have to do the reload animation, and all my teammates on the plate get instantly reloaded too. It's just a good example of when and where to use it, but you can use it at any time. And then it's not just when you drop it initially. If you strafe in and out of your rift as you're shooting, it'll just keep reloading the weapon. I mean, I wish obviously it would work where it would automatically reload while you're standing in it. You didn't have to strafe in and out of it. But you can get accustomed to it, get used to it, and it does come in handy. You know, shoot a rocket, step out, step back in. You're ready to go. Especially good with the Warcliffe coil because you don't have to go through that massively long reload animation. So I would highly recommend those boots. This chest piece, I haven't been using it much of late, but I do kind of like it. I do kind of like floating in the air like that. On occasion, it does have its uses. If you don't know, that gives you the, it used to be called Angel of Light, where when you're in the air and you aim, you'll float in the air. And shooting, I think it's precision kills, extended duration. Yeah, precision hits. Not precision kills, precision hits, extended duration. I think it's a really cool looking chest piece. And it does have its uses on occasion. Gauntlets, the Karnstein armlets, I have them set up for Void, with a Void mod on them. I mean, I think it perfectly works with the Voidwalker Devour setup, where when you get melee kills, grenade kills, and subsequent kills with even your guns afterwards, you keep getting health back. The Karnstein armlets are going to grant health recovery, melee grenade, and class ability energy from melee attacks. And that's pretty cool. Probably my most used pair of exotic gauntlets, though, would be the Sunbracers. They were my most used, or one of my most used from Destiny 1 as well. It's my favorite grenade for the solar subclass, the big round sun. It's basically like you're throwing a sun out onto the map. I do miss the fact that you would get two of them on Destiny 1, though, with these gauntlets. It would grant you a second grenade. With this one, it's basically the same as it was on D1, except you only get one grenade. So it's extending the duration of that. So if you can get a static target, like a boss that doesn't move around a lot, and you plop that sun on them, and it just sits there for even longer, and it just burns the crap out of them. It's pretty useful in that way. helmets. All four of these helmets, I would say, I use in equal amount. If there's anyone that shines above the rest, it would probably be Eye of Another World, simply because it's not class specific. You can use it on any class. I've decided to mostly use it with solar, which is why I put a solar class ability mod on it. More or less, if for no other reason, then there is no solar specific exotic helmet, so I decided to make that one solar. This is the first one I got, I believe, the Crown of the Tempest, and that's arc ability kills increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities. So essentially, while you're a Stormcaller, if you kill something with your arc melee, your arc grenade, your arc super, whatever, it's just for a couple seconds it is reducing the cooldown, the recharge rate, it's speeding up how fast you're getting your powers back. Skull of Dire Ahamkara has actually been buffed since Destiny 1. I didn't really like this helmet in Destiny 1. I always loved the look of it, but I never enjoyed the perk. The perk it just made it harder for you to die. You could tank more damage when you're in your Nova Bomb animation, when you're actually throwing your Nova Bomb. Now they kept that perk, but they added that Nova Bomb kills grant super energy. So that's like the perk that Obsidian Mind, the black helmet from Destiny 1, had. But it's not as strong, I wouldn't say, as it was in Destiny 1, that perk. I used to be able to hit a good 10 or 12 enemies grouped up together, maybe even less than that, with Obsidian Mind and almost instantly have another Nova Bomb. It's not like that in Destiny 2 on the Skull of Dire Ahamkara. You might get half your health, your super bar back, or a third of your super bar back, which is useful, but you're not going to get, the full thing. Nazarick Sin. I kind of like this. If anything, I like the look of this helmet very much. It's a really cool looking helmet. This one, in fact, I'm going to show off that whole set of armor. I like that set of armor. You say that set of armor, it's an exotic. I wear that with the Philomath set. Excuse me. Just getting up and I decided to make this video, so my voice is a little rough, that's why. This is... I have the... what's the name of this shader? I went with the Golden Trace shader on this whole set. I kind of really like the look of this, the way I've gotten this. Kind of a little flashy look to it. This one, Void Damage Kills, increase ability energy recharge rate. Now, the way I interpret that and the way I've seen it work, it doesn't really affect your super. It affects your grenade, your melee, and your class ability. And the class ability for me is so useful on the Warlock. I'm just doing anytime I can get a mod to reduce the recharge rate of that, to speed it up. Anytime I can get an ability or a perk on a piece of armor or weapon that's going to increase the recharge or decrease the recharge rate so I get it back faster, I'm all about it. I love being able to drop a rift constantly, especially when I'm running arc. Because you get the little arc buddy floating next to you that'll shoot at enemies for you. So what this does, what it doesn't say it does, but what it actually does, not only does your super, your grenade, and your melee, if they're charged, give, if you get a kill with any of those, does it increase your ability energy recharge rate and give you any of your powers back quicker, but any void damage weapons. So for instance, I've got the Conspirator in Void, okay? So I start getting kills with the Conspirator. It's Void damage. It actually triggers the Abyssal Extractors perk on this helmet and will start making my grenade and my melee and my class ability recharge quicker. So very useful, very little hidden thing that not a lot of people realize about that helmet. Eye of Another World, the last one, last piece of armor I'm probably going to go over. I'll check the vault and see if there's anything in there that I forgot to mention. This helmet, I put it for solar, like I was saying before. It says Suros Modular Shine shader. Now what this does, it highlights priority targets. That I don't really find that useful. I suppose there's certain times where it's a little difficult to make out targets in the in the area you're in, maybe in the dogs encounter or something. But the big thing for this one is it improves the regeneration speed of your grenade, melee, and rift. It's basically just a flat buff on all of those abilities. So in addition to having my whole set of armor specced out with increased regeneration of those abilities, I've also got the helmet that has all those perks. So you're just getting your stuff back pretty fast when you're wearing that. Alright, let me throw this stuff back on real quick and we'll go over weapons. Alright, we got that all sorted. Now, these three weapons have been the main ones I've been rocking lately, and it's these two auto rifles that keep going back and forth between. The Ghost Primus auto rifle is the Raid auto rifle, and I'm using that for pretty much anything I want to use it for. There's no specific circumstance in which it's more useful than others. This one has Scathe-Lock. I would recommend above, actually, in a lot of instances above Ghost Primus. Scathe-Lock has the perk High Caliber Rounds. Now in PvE and in PvP, that is going to be more useful than the perk I found on the Ghost Primus. What Scathe-Lock is going to do is, with the High Caliber Rounds, if you don't already know, it's like Mida. Everybody's complaining about Mida and PvP. High Caliber Rounds is going to cause your opponent to flinch. So if you're in PvP, it's going to make him throw his aim off. He's aiming at your head, you shoot him in the face with this, all of a sudden he's looking up in the sky or he's looking down at your feet. It throws your opponent's aim off. In PvE, it's going to stagger your opponents really hard, and they're not going to be able to shoot back at you. They're not going to be charging up in your face in most instances. They're just going to be standing there stuck in a flinch animation. So it's I like using this pretty much all the time for raiding, for Nightfalls, for everything. This is essentially the same auto rifle if you look at the stats for it. Same rounds per minute, only 2 more in the magazine, slightly lower reload speed and range, a little bit more stability, but essentially the same stats. The thing that this has that Scathe-Lock doesn't have is it's got glass half full, essentially from Destiny 1. They call it high impact reserves in Destiny 2. So rounds at the end of the magazine deal more damage. I find you might get more DPS out of this one, but you're going to get more utility out of the Scathe-Lock. Ambitious Assassin, the other trait it has, overflows the magazine based on the number of rapid kills before reloading. This is a perk that all the raid guns have. And what that does, if I get a couple kills with this gun in the magazine, the next time I reload, I'm going to have more rounds in the magazine. It's going to up it from 44 up to, I don't know, 50, 55. I haven't really played with it too much on that perk, but that's essentially what it does. So that's something you might want to consider playing around with. I didn't put a shader on any of the raid guns yet. I kind of like them the way they are. And then I just got this yesterday, so I haven't played around with it too much. I'm kind of liking it. This is the Future War Cult hand cannon from the Faction Wars. And it's got the big perk on this one. It's got projectiles attached to enemies explode after a short delay. It's basically explosive rounds, but with a slight delay to when they explode. They don't explode on impact. It takes a second or so for the projectile to explode. And I'm a huge Future War Cult fan, and I used to like Firefly hand cannons and exploding round hand cannons in Destiny. Once I've been playing around with this one, and it hits really hard too. It's got high impact, and I was enjoying it yesterday using it. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it yet, but those are, I would say, these two auto rifles, if you're into auto rifles, are what I just can't seem to put down, especially Scathe-Lock in the primary slot. You notice I don't even have anything else in here. I was using all different kinds of weapons in here. We can go over those when we get into the vault, though. For my energy slot, these are the things that I've decided I have to carry on me at all times. Graviton Lance, I just felt like ranking that up and playing around with it yesterday, and I didn't even start playing around with it. I used it when I first got it. I know it's not the greatest, but it's just so freaking cool looking, and the sounds it makes. You know, this is not a top tier weapon for PvE or PvP, in my opinion, but it's a fun gun to use when you can get it to work for you the right way. Cold Heart is just a monster of DPS on Callus in the raid, on the boss, on any strike boss. As long as you can hold the beam on them for a good amount of time, so you build up to that high damage at the end of the clip. If you don't know, the longer you hold the beam on an enemy, the more damage it does. It ramps up. It's like glass half full on steroids. Or what they don't call it glass half full in Destiny 2, high impact reserves. Sunshot is, in my opinion, like Destiny 2's version of Fatebringer, but exotic. It's got explosive rounds, it's got a pretty fast reload, and you don't have to get precision kills with it to make the target explode. You get any kill with it and that enemy will explode, causing damage to enemies around it. Really neat weapon, really fun weapon. Has become my favorite hand cannon to use when I feel like using a hand cannon. I'll just, equip that as my exotic, and away I go. Risk Runner is situational, but really fun when it is working, when its intrinsic perk has been triggered. So when you take arc damage, the weapon becomes more powerful, resists incoming arc damage, and kills extend the time in this overcharged state. Then when you get Superconductor, when Arc Conductor is active, shots fired have the chance to become Chain Lightning and return ammo. It essentially gets unlimited ammo when it's in that state. As you're shooting, it's just constantly reloading itself. So it has infinite ammo, it's chaining lightning to other enemies. It's a beast when it's in that state. Guys are using it in PvP sometimes when other people are using a lot of arc weapons. So those are the exotics. Conspirator and Inaugural Address are raid guns. Of the two, I've had Conspirator longer. That was my first raid gun, and I've used it more. I can't speak too much to the effectiveness of Inaugural Address. I've used it. I like it, but I wouldn't say it's a standout weapon necessarily. It's got Outlaw. So precision kills greatly decrease reload time. So it has a really fast reload if you're getting headshots or precision kills with it. Reloading after a kill increases damage. So those two work very well together. It's got that same perk from all the raid guns. Overflows the magazine based on the number of rapid kills before reloading. A couple different barrel options. And it's just it's a sturdy, good, all-around pulse rifle, but there's nothing on it that necessarily says, oh man, I gotta use this, this is amazing. It's got a neat sound to it too, though. The Conspirator, it's full auto, okay, so I like that about it, full auto, or you can run that Ambitious Assassin perk. I do like full auto for certain situations. Something gets close to you and you just need to get it off you, and you don't have anything else equipped necessarily for that, so full auto comes in handy for that. You've been raiding for a couple hours and your trigger finger's getting tired, it's nice to just hold that down. And it's got Dragonfly, which is basically Destiny 2's version of Firefly from Destiny 1. Precision kills create an elemental damage explosion. So if you get a precision kill, it causes the target to explode and cause damage to other enemies around it. It's not nearly as powerful as it was in Destiny 1 when it was called Firefly. It is neat, it is fun, it's cool, but it is not the most useful perk. But luckily this scout rifle has a lot of good things going for it. It doesn't necessarily have to lean on that perk. That perk's just an extra benefit, so I do like this scout a lot. This one I just got from Future War Cult this week from Faction Wars, and it's kind of like a Mida in its legendary state without a few of the mods. Perks, rather. So it's got the high caliber rounds. Rampage. Okay, so kills with this weapon temporarily grant increased damage. Stacks 3 times. So that's something Mida doesn't have. You can boost your DPS with that. It doesn't have the mobility perks or the radar stays active all the time. But other than that, it's pretty close to what Mida does. So that's pretty fun. Mini Mida is probably my favorite SMG other than Risk Runner in the game. It's probably my favorite legendary SMG. And if for no other reason than I got it early on and never really found a reason to replace it with anything else. And this does the same thing Mida does. So you've got speed benefits when it's equipped. Alright. And then Drang. I did have Mida and Sturm up here, but I just recently took them out of my loadout just because I've been farming a lot and trying to keep my loadout and my inventory not maxed out. Well, maybe not in all categories anyway. Drang is an awesome sidearm. It's my favorite sidearm in the game too. Just very fast firing, it hits pretty hard, and especially when you pair it with Sturm, where when you're shooting Sturm it reloads Drang, and when you're shooting Drang it reloads Sturm. Of course you've got to get kills with it, not just shoot it. And then heavy weapons, Merciless is just phenomenal DPS weapon, fusion rifle. Xur was selling a couple weeks ago, like I think last week maybe. So essentially what this does, non-lethal hits with projectiles make this weapon charge faster until its wielder gets a kill. You're shooting a boss, you're shooting a tank, you're shooting a ship, and you're not killing it with the first shot. The second shot will charge faster. You can pull the trigger and it'll shoot faster. You don't get a kill with that hit, the next shot goes faster and faster and faster and faster until you're basically shooting in full auto mode. As fast as you can pull the trigger, it'll fire until the clip is empty. Now, if you pair this with a Titan Rally Barricade, or I'm not sure if the Hunter has anything where it'll instant reload. Yeah, the Dodge, the Hunter Dodge, or the Warlock Lunafaction boots, and you pop in and out of your Rift real quick, you will instantly reload the weapon, and you will keep that fast charge rate going. So you can empty the second magazine just as quick as you empty the tail end of the first magazine. So some crazy DPS you're capable of with this weapon. If you happen to get a kill, the reload speed is going to be really quick. It's like Outlaw, essentially. But you don't need obviously, you're not getting a critical hit kill. Alright. Wardcliff Coil, aka Dubious Volley. Wardcliff Coil is a really fun, really neat rocket launcher, and it's great for clearing out groups of adds or for doing a lot of damage, massive damage on one boss. And the only thing you gotta watch out for is that you don't kill yourself with it. If an enemy happens to stray in front of you, like with any rocket launcher, or if you say you're jumping up to shoot it when you're on your way back down from your jump, because the rockets come out in a stream, they don't come out all at once, the flurry of rockets come out of it, you might catch the last rocket on a piece of environment, something from the environment, a rock, a ledge, whatever you're jumping up out of, the cover you're jumping up out of. So you've got to be cautious of that. But weapon fires a volley of rockets. They do track, and you just have to be close enough to activate the tracking. You can't be shooting this thing from a long distance. This is more of a close to mid-range rocket launcher. And then another neat thing about this that it takes a little bit of getting used to. You fire off a rocket. Keep the rocket launcher out. Don't let it go into reload if there's a power brick of ammo nearby. If there's a power brick of ammo nearby, just sprint with the gun over to it and it'll automatically reload the gun for you. So that's something to know. It will not reload if you have it stowed away in your inventory and you pulled out a different gun. keep that in mind. The Raid Exotic Shotgun. Now, I don't have this fully upgraded yet. I'm on the quest step where you've got to complete multiple encounters in the raid in order to unlock the rest of the skill tree, their stat tree or whatever, perk tree for the shotgun. Now they're patching this on Tuesday. You're only going to require 10 seals, so I need one more seal and to try and get this weekend, so that'll be completed. And that's going to give me 2 shots in the magazine for this shotgun. Right now it only has 1, and it's going to unlock a few more of these perks. And I know that because Datto already has it done to that step. If you're not familiar, he's a YouTuber on Destiny. So this weapon fires a blast of high damage arc energy that overpenetrates. Now, you take out 2 or 3 enemies at once with this, depending on how they're grouped up. And from a pretty good distance, you can see the range it says as max range. It's kind of a little misleading, the max range stat, but it does have a pretty decent range on it. And if you find like a high value target running around in patrol, if you find a public event boss, a strike boss, whatever, and you whack them with this, it takes a good chunk of their health out. It is a really neat shotgun. I like it a lot. Here's the Raid rocket launcher, Sins of the Past, and Curtain Call, the Vanguard rocket launcher. They're essentially both very similar. They have the pretty, I don't want to say they're very similar. Let's compare the stats. So Curtain Call has a lot lower blast radius. So Sins of the Past is going to be more useful for clearing out large areas of enemies. Curtain Call, though, because it has a lower blast radius, at least the way I have it set up right now, is going to cause those cluster bombs to stay in a tighter area. If you're trying to do DPS on a boss, you're going to get more damage from your cluster bombs with Curtain Call. It also has higher velocity, so the rocket's going to get there a little faster. Has a higher fire rate, so you're going to be able to get more rockets off quicker. And a higher reload speed again, so you'll be able to get more rockets off quicker. Stability and handling on a rocket launcher I could care less about. Something to note, though, that I really haven't had a chance to see how well it works with Sins of the Past. If you take off Cluster Bomb, but of course you're going to lose a lot of DPS if you do that, you can get the Ambitious Assassin perk going, where, let's say I kill a group of ads with 1 rocket. Well, then I reload, and I'm going to have more than 1 rocket in the magazine. So I don't know how many you're capable of getting. If you're able to get 3, 4 rockets, I don't know. And if it comes from your reserves, which I'm sure it does. So if that's the case, maybe this would actually compete more and maybe out damage the Curtain Call. And there's a nice thing about this, though, if you're not using it on a boss where you want to constantly be shooting it, you can holster it like this is basically Cocoon from Destiny 1, where the perk that all the Taken King guns had on it, Kingsfall weapons. So you put it away, you holster it, you stow it away, and you pull out a different weapon, and this weapon's going to automatically reload after a short period of time. So you can, if you say you wanted to do this on a strike boss or even on Talos, I guess you could, shoot a rocket, switch to Cold Heart, empty a clip of Cold Heart, go back to the rocket, shoot another rocket, go back to Cold Heart, or stay on the rocket at that point and just start reloading and shooting. So just for more damage per second initially. Best shotgun in the game, in my opinion. Hawthorne's Field Forge shotgun. Full auto, good amount of range, good amount of impact. Useful in the raid, useful in any activity. PvP. I can't speak too much for PvP because I'm not a big PvP guy, but I've heard, and through a little bit of personal experience, I would recommend it. I mean, you're going to use your ammo up a little faster, and you're going to need usually 2 shots to kill an enemy, but I still like it. Great shotgun. Raid sword is the only sword I keep in my inventory now, and I'll explain why. So, swords are really good for certain enemies, like the dogs, or in the Pleasure Garden encounter in the raid, or any enemy that's going to get up in your face, essentially. A lot of swords have this perk, or they have this perk. This sword has both of them, which is what makes it unique and which is why I only carry this sword now. Whirlwind Blade, consecutive rapid sword strikes increase this weapon's damage output. What does that mean? You go up to a big tanky enemy and you hit it 3 times with the sword, and your damage is going to start to increase from the sword. So as you keep swinging your sword at the enemy, your damage is going to go up and up and up. Relentless Strikes, landing 3 strikes within a short time grants sword ammo. So again, you hit a tanky enemy multiple times with this, and you're going to start to get ammo back. So you can see how these two perks go together and can really start to be capable of some high damage output. Alright, that is pretty much everything on my inventory. Let's take a peek in the vault. So we've got Mida. I don't think that really needs any explanation. That's a quest weapon. Sturm. Both very good, solid, exotic, kinetic weapons that you might want to consider running. And if you're going to run them, I would recommend running their partner, their sister weapons. So Sturm, you'd want to run Drang, and Mida run Mini Mida. And they work really great together. Better Devils, I'm not too crazy about at this point. I mean, it's good. I like it, but I'm not, I don't know. I'm kind of, I guess because a lot of people are like, oh, you gotta use this, you gotta use this. I'm straying away from it. I'm playing with True Prophecy right now, and I prefer, if I'm going to use a hand cannon, I just throw on Sunshot most of the time. But if you don't want to dedicate a slot, oh, I just realized I have 2 Better Devils. This one's going to have to be broken down. Wait, did I see a 3rd Better Devils? No, it just reshifted the inventory like it does. If you're going to want to use another exotic, well then Better Devils is a great legendary to have. So you're not using your exotic slot. What else have I been using that is in my inventory here in the vault? Might not be anything else in here. I was playing around with Hard Light, but here's the thing about Hard Light. You can switch damage type, and you think, oh, that's great. That's awesome for nightfalls and things. It's not as useful as you might think for 2 reasons. One, unlike the Borealis PlayStation exclusive sniper rifle, where you can switch it from arc to void to solar, just with the push of a button. Hard Light, you've got to go into your inventory, inspect the weapon, and go into the perk tree and then switch it like so. So you're out of the action while you're doing that. You're not being useful to your team. You're not being able to defend yourself, whatever, while you're switching it. And then additionally, where that might really be the most useful in something like a Prestige Nightfall, your loadout's locked. Now you think, oh, your loadout's locked, you should still be able to change the perks on your weapons, you just can't change your weapons. Nope, you cannot. You cannot change perks on your weapons in a Prestige or Nightfall or any activity where your loadout is locked. So you're stuck using whatever one you selected. Other than that, it is a good, solid gun, but it still has a lot of screen shake like it did in Destiny 1, which can really be a negative thing for it. Make it hard to keep your aim true. This is the best grenade launcher. If I wasn't so full on power weapons right now, I would be carrying it. I do use it a lot. I have used it a lot. I've used it in a raid to a very good effect. In my opinion, this is the best grenade launcher in the game, and a lot of people need to be looking at this and using this. People are sleeping on it right now. What makes this a standout grenade launcher? Okay. Threat detector. Increase reload stability and handling when enemies are nearby. So when you have enemies nearby, you're going to be able to reload faster, increase stability and handling. Proximity grenades is what really does it though. Proximity grenades, when you're shooting the grenade launcher at enemies and the grenades get near the enemy, you don't actually have to hit the enemy. You could be just a little bit off, your aim a little bit above, to the side, below, whatever. it's going to trigger the explosion, and it's going to go off. Kind of like grenades and horseshoes perk was on Destiny 1 rocket launchers. And it's great because let's face it, we're not all perfect with our aim all the time. So this will make up for that. And you can just sit there and rapid. It's got a really good fire rate. You can sit there and just boom, 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 throw out a bunch of grenades at mobs or at a boss, and just wipe them out. Anything else? Anything else? Borealis mentioned a little bit before how you hold down square and you change the weapon's damage type from arc to void to solar or whatever. You have to go through the whole reload animation when you do that, so that's a negative to it. But it is very, very useful to have on a Nightfall or something where you've got the prism modifier where the burn keeps changing. So if you've got that type of activity going, I would highly recommend running this. That's probably it. That is probably about it. Don't really see anything else here that I would say you have to have this or get this or I use this all the time. So there you go. That's what I've been running. I'm now at max power, and those are the weapons I recommend and that I run with all the time, and the armor I run with all the time. Last thing I will mention, I think I forgot to say, some people I've seen don't necessarily think of doing things in this way, but I would recommend doing it. I run Arc all the time in the raid. That's my subclass for the raid. So my raid armor is all set up with the exception of these two, because I wanted to get higher recovery and because this is an exotic, so it's not always being used for Arc, so I didn't want to put specifically an Arc mod on it. But my chest piece class abilities recharge faster when using an Arc subclass, okay, the mod. The gauntlets class ability recharges faster when using Arc, and my helmet Arc abilities or Arc melee abilities recharge faster. Essentially, my point is you should make sets of armor for each subclass. So when I want to run Void, I had this on earlier. I was showing you when I had one of my Void sets. Or we could just throw this whole set on real quick. I'll throw on the Lost Pacific set, and I can show you more better what I'm talking about. More better. Yeah, I can words very well. Okay, so the helmet's got grenade recharge. Gauntlets have grenade recharge. Chest has class ability recharge. If you don't know, class ability only affects your Rift if you're a Warlock, your Rally Barricade if you're a Titan, or your Dodge Roll if you're a Hunter. That's what it's cooling down. Boots. I don't think there was anything good or anything at all for Void subclass for boots available, so I just went with recovery. And then on the class item, I went with power weapon handling. So just try to make sets of armor that go along with different subclasses. Make one for solar, one for arc, one for void, at least one, and that's going to help you out a lot. Alright, so that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful or enjoyable to watch. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.